Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I will explain about 7 strokes that we can use at sculpt mode at Blender. On the left side you can see there are a brush tool, and for this tutorial I will use clay strips. If you feel this brush shape is too hard, we can change this at brush, tip roundness, increase it a bit to make it smoother. And for now, I will use this setting. This stroke setting also can be found at Active Tool and Workspace setting. Scroll down and you can see there are also stroke setting here, and it has totally same. If I change the setting here, the other will follow. First is dot stroke. Dot stroke is a basic stroke. It has a characteristic that the speed of the mouse move will determine the result. If I brush it fast like this, and if I brush it slow like this, they have different result. When I brush it faster like this, the step distance between that is further each other. And when I brush it slower like this, the step distance between them is closer each other. And for the rest setting, I will explain later. Let's go to the second one, drag dot. Drag dot is a single brush, and it's generating a single dot with a single click, drag and move. It have no matte setting here, and let's go to the third. It is space stroke. Space stroke has opposite spacing type with the dot stroke type, which just means if I brush it slowly like this, and if I brush it faster like this, they have no difference in spacing or distance between brushes. The spacing is staying constantly. It's not just like the dot stroke. The speed of the mouse brush is affecting the spacing result, but not with space stroke that the speed of the mouse will not affect anything to the spacing result. And let's take a look at the setting. Space stroke has a spacing setting here. This spacing setting is control the spacing between dots, and if I increase the spacing value, the spacing between dots has more distance. And if I decrease the spacing value, the brush is become more solid. And we go to the fourth one. It's called airbrush stroke. Airbrush stroke is similar with the dot stroke because the speed of the mouse movement determines the result as just like dot stroke. When I brush it slowly like this, and when I brush it faster like this, then you can see here, both of them have different result. Slower movement of the brush will make the distance between brushes closer each other, and the faster movement of the brush will make the distance between brushes further each other. It's similar with the dot stroke, but it has more control with this red value setting. When I increase the red value, the distance between the brushes is also increased too. When I decrease the red value, the distance between the brushes is also decreased too. The more I decrease the red, it's become more solid. Now, we will go to the fifth one, anchor stroke. Anchor stroke is also single stroke just like drag dot stroke, but it cannot be moved instead of scaling the brush size. The first click of the mouse, then dragging it will determine the brush size. You can see here, the more we dragging the mouse away, the bigger it will become. And let's we see here, it has edge to edge setting here. And if we check this edge to edge setting here, the first click of the mouse will become the edge of the brush, and dragging it to the another point will generate brush size on it. And if I turn off edge to edge setting, the first click of the mouse will become center point of the brush. It will generate the brush starting from the center point of it. Now we go to 6th stroke. It is line stroke. Line stroke is for creating straight line brush, and it's good for hard surface model. The way we use this stroke is by dragging this line to wherever we want. And if I hold Alt key while I dragging this line here, you can see here, the line is snapping 45 degrees. And if I release Alt key from the keyboard, it can move freely to wherever it is without snapping to anything. This line stroke also has spacing setting just like space stroke, and they are actually our same setting. When I set lower spacing value, the line that I will create will become more solid. If I increase the amount of spacing value, you can see here, the line is not solid anymore, and it has more distant brush each other. And it's actually same like space stroke setting, because they are both same at the first place, with only have different on the way in using the brush. The last stroke is curve stroke. This stroke is a special stroke that allows us to create a Bezier curve first by passing point by point, then generate the brush from the curve later. To begin create a curve, first we must click on this new icon. Then we will create the curve point by hold Ctrl and right click, Ctrl, right click, Ctrl, right click, Ctrl, right click. And when we hold Ctrl and we left click anywhere, it can generating the brush. This curve stroke also have spacing setting just like space stroke and line stroke. Only these 3 strokes from 7 strokes that have spacing setting. We will lower the spacing value first. And if we hold Ctrl and left click, it generating brush according to the curve. And we can also adjust the point of the curve by using right click on the mouse to move this curve point or the curve handle. We can also add new point to the curve. First, we select this point, then hold Ctrl and right click. Ctrl, right click. And if you want to delete a curve point, select the point and press X key. Press X key. We can also move this point by press G key. And I prefer using this G key than using right click on the mouse. There is a reason why using G key is better than using right click to move the curve point. Now I will select multiple points by hold Shift and select these 3 curve points. Then I want to move these 3 points all together by using right click. And when I press right click to move them, and you can see here, these 3 curve points cannot move all together by using right click. But if I select the curve points once again while holding Shift key and using G key, all the selecting curve points can move all together. We can also scaling it up or scaling it down all together by press S key. We can also rotate it by using R key. But what is happening if using R key to rotate them? The orientation is messed up And don't worry, because there is a solution for this. We can using another way to rotate it by using rotate gizmo. It is located here. We turn on the rotate gizmo. Then we change the default to view. Then a gizmo circle appear on the screen. And by dragging the blue circle, we can rotate it without any problem now. No matter which angle we use, the rotate gizmo will following and we can rotate it without any issue now. And after we have done, we can turn it off. Okay, let's say that we have done with this curve, but we want to using it again in the future, and we don't want to delete this curve. We can go to the stroke menu and rename it first. And let's make the second curve by pressing this icon here. We create a new curve. This is the second curve, and let's say we're done with this. We generate the bus according to this curve by pressing Ctrl left click. Pressing Ctrl left click. Then let's say we want to use the first curve we have made before. We go here and we opening this list. Select the first curve and you can see here the first curve is reappear on the screen and ready to use. And we can generate the brush from this curve again and again as we want. Okay, that's all about the curve stroke. Now I will explain more detail about the stroke setting. Under the spacing setting, there is a spacing distance setting. This spacing distance setting can be found in dot stroke, drag dot stroke, space stroke, eyebrush stroke, anchor stroke, line stroke, and curve stroke. So all of 7 strokes have this spacing distance setting. I will use space stroke for show how is the spacing distance setting works. What is this spacing distance setting? Spacing distance setting is control the spacing of the brush based on the distance of viewpoint. Spacing distance setting has two options. The first one is view type. With spacing distance view type, the brush spacing will be determined according to the view. In other words, the mesh contour and surface is mostly affecting the spacing. Because this is all about 3D space, and we not view it in flat surface on 2D space, so there will be a part of the mesh that closer or further in our viewpoint. So I will brush start from the edge to the other edge of this mesh, and I adjust the brush size smaller. What we can see here at the edge which is further from our viewpoint, where I brushed it just now, it has more distance between brush, and when it comes to the center of the mesh, which is closer to our viewpoint, the distance between brush is also closer. When it reaches another edge which is further from our viewpoint again, its back become more distant between brush. So the conclusion is, which surface of the mesh closer to our viewpoint will have closer spacing between brush, and the further surface will have most distant spacing. This means the surface of the mesh is affecting the spacing result. And let's try the second option of spacing distance type called choosen. I will also brush start from the edge of the mesh. And what we can see here, the spacing between brush is staying more constantly, or we cannot see any different spacing from the edge to the center of the mesh. So the contour and surface of the mesh will not affecting the spacing, no matter what kind of surface it is. The spacing will stay more stable and constantly. The next setting that I will explain is dash ratio and dash length. This setting is good for create state on cloth, fabric, and jeans. To explain what is different between dash ratio and dash length, I will directly show you with the setting the value from this setting. First, I will set the dash ratio 0.5 value and dash length 100 value. I decrease the dash ratio to 0.32 value and I brush it. I more decrease the dash ratio to 0.19 value and I brush it. We can see here, the lower dash ratio value, the shorter brush length it becomes. But not one thing, after I decrease the dash ratio value, the distance between brush F is seen more distantly. But actually, that's not what's happened. The dash distance is actually staying on the same position point when they appear, only the brush length is getting shorter. Let me change the dash ratio back to 0.5 value and I brush it. Now I will decrease the dash length to 80 value and I brush it. I more decrease the dash length to the 52 value and I brush it. We can see here the lower dash length value, both the brush length and brush distance are getting shorter. This also can be said that the lower dash length value, the dash get more scaling down, and the position point they appear also gets shorter, but it will not scaling down the brush size. And let me do it one more time to make it more clearly. I start from very beginning value, dash ratio 0.5 value, dash length 100 value, then I brush it. I decrease the dash ratio to 0.28 value and I brush it at below of it. I increase the dash ratio to 0.7 value without modify dash length value and I brush it at above of it. And as we can see here, they have same position point appear with only different on brush length. I change the dash ratio back to 0.5 value and I brush it once again. This line is as same as this line because they have same value setting. I decrease the dash length to 60 value and I brush it. I increase the dash length to 130 value and I brush it. Now we can see more clearly the difference between dash ratio and dash length here. The dash length have capability to change both the brush length and the brush distance at once. Or more precisely can be said dash length is about scaling the dash without scaling the size of the brush. And dash length doesn't care about position point of the brush when it appears. Different with dash ratio. Dash ratio only changes the brush length, which always has same position point of brush when it appears. So that's all about dash ratio and dash length. The next setting I will explain is jitter, but I need to change back the dash ratio to 1 value and dash length to 20 value to make the brush back to normal. Jitter is the setting for generating position point of brush when they appear randomly according to jitter value. This is good for those spray brushes to make certain texture or certain pattern. The more jitter value, the more the brush is spreading. The less jitter value, the closer brush is spreading. There are two options here, with another one using pixel as the value point, and if I increase this value, then it makes the brush more spreading away. And my tip for this setting is combine it with customized brush shape to make it more powerful brush. Sorry if I don't explain this combination way in this tutorial, because I'm focusing the explanation in this stroke system. Maybe I will make it on the next tutorial. So the last setting that needed to be explained is stabilize stroke. This stabilize stroke setting is only at dot stroke. space stroke, and eyebrow stroke. And curve stroke doesn't have it. Line stroke doesn't have it. Curve stroke doesn't have it as well. Now I will use this space stroke to explain the stabilized stroke. Stabilized stroke is a lead brush. The brush will come lately when they do brushing. And if you are using ZBrush, it is same as lazy mouse as ZBrush. There are two settings here, radius and vector. First, I will try with higher radius value and less vector value. And when I brush it, oops, I am very sorry, I forgot to turn off the jitter system. I turn off the jitter. I will brush it with high amount value of radius. This radius is controlling the respawn point in each step. Higher value will make the each step longer and it's different thing with spacing system. We can see there is a long step of the brush here. And if I decrease the radius value, then I brush it. The brush step is become shorter and is smoother now. And now I will use less radius value and increase the vector value. This vector is determined how late the brush appear since the first click is made. More vector value will make the brush appear more lately behind. If I use maximum vector value, the brush appear is so lately. And if I decrease the vector value, it appear early and closer to the mouse cursor. This will be very useful in some cases like when you brush an ornament or filling something that is needed more accuracy. Okay, that's all about all stroke setting for today. Hopefully this tutorial will give you more better information and useful for your next project. Thank you for watching my video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. See you in the next tutorial. Thank you.